You know, Christmas tree cleaning windows of the file course. Just got done for the day, so the wagon's all topped up, ready to go for tomorrow. So yeah, just wanted to drop a quick video. Just give me a minute. Oh, here we go. Whoa, nippy today, innit? So I wanted to drop a video today, which is basically the customer is not always right. I think attitudes have changed quite dramatically over the years. We've heard where people have sort of coined this phrase. I believe this phrase is a throwback, I think, to the 1940s, 1950s. You know, where the idea behind customer being king, if you like, and at the centre of every business. And there's no getting away from the fact that without customers, you know, your business is just not going to get off the ground. That's not in doubt. But I think the attitude of the customer is always right is almost a subservient sort of throwback, particularly in things like retail and marketing and stuff like that. And you know, I don't think that, to be honest with you, that generally has much of a place, you know, in the modern world, to be honest with you. Especially with things like the internet and stuff like that, people are a lot more sort of independent, you know, people are a lot more sort of open-minded and question things a lot more than perhaps previous generations. That's at least my take on it. But I had a conversation the other day with Anthony from London. Just wanted to give you a shout out, mate. Hope you're well. And he coined an absolutely cracking phrase. We had a bit of a discussion about this. And it's almost, he calls it business bipolar, which I think is quite good. And it's how you engage and how you talk to customers. And that sets the tone, I think. How you talk to a customer sets the tone for what your future relationship is going to be like. So if you approach a customer from day one and give it the whole Oliver Twist mode, please sir, can I have some more? That's very subservient. You know, you're coming across as very subservient. You'll bend over backwards to please them, etc., and all this sort of stuff. And some customers, very sadly, will play on that. They will play on any insecurities that you have. It goes back to what I was saying about imposter syndrome. It goes back to knowing your worth and having the, you know, minerals to sort of communicate and the confidence to sort of hold yourself in front of other people. That's a big part of what every business owner comes across, okay? Now, you know, how you engage with that customer will dictate your future professional relationship. It really will. If you come across as subservient, they will oblige you. If you come across on the opposite end of the scale as, you know, arrogant, etc., you know, the relationship won't get off the ground. But as in all things, I think balance is key. Balance in all things, right? You want to come across as professional, courteous, polite, you know, you want to come across as helpful, all right? But what you don't want to come across as a doormat, because if you present that image of a doormat, they'll happily walk all over you, no drama at all. They'll not even blink, right? And I think a lot of that plays into the whole imposter syndrome and confidence and, oh my God, and how you know, it's the fear of the unknown, right? The way I tend to you know, go about this and approach this problem is to sort of almost put across the aura of you don't really need the work. And that little voice inside you might be wanting to burst out of you and sort of, you know, I really want the work, I really want the work. But if you come across, especially if you're a new guy, if you come across like that, you know, they will ultimately use your insecurity against you. It's just a sad fact of life. And they'll exploit it. So how do you cope with that? It's having a lot of self-control, a lot of discipline, and a lot of confidence, and the ability to have a poker face, right? Someone said to me about sort of a business owner is a bit like a swan, graceful on a lake and flapping like underneath, sort of thing. And I think there's a lot to be said for that, to be honest with you. If you so what I would normally do is I would come across and sort of put across I'm here, I am helpful, I want your custom, but I am not so desperate to take the work that I'm prepared to let you walk all over me for it. And you set these mini little boundaries in place. Okay, so for argument's sake, for us, if a customer approaches me and says, let's say for argument's sake, we'll play a scenario, I'm cleaning windows on a street, and the gentleman across the road wants to sort of he wants to ask how much my services are, he wants his windows cleaned, etc., and comes over and just sort of says, "Hi mate, how much for mine? I live over there, how much for the window cleaning on that?" And I'll say, "Yeah, well, no dramas, let me get done here and I'll pop over in about 5 minutes, is that all right?" That is, so let's why I do that is it's quite simple, is because I will tell the customer, yeah, I'll be over in let me get done here and I'll be over in 5 minutes. And the reason I do that is a very, very subtle way of sort of saying, let me finish my work, okay, and I will get to you as soon as it's done, right? That says to the customer, I will happily come and help you, but I need to get this done first. If you was to take the other approach, which is to sort of drop what you were doing, stop what you were doing, and walk across the road and then spend 10 minutes chatting away and all this sort of stuff, you're not getting your work done. And that is, almost, you're almost coming across, I think, as being potentially sort of, you're more bothered about gathering new customers than you are about servicing the ones you've got, right? And that, some people are quite astute and will pick up on that. If you're almost sort of putting the customer at arm's length and saying, yeah, no dramas, I'll be over in a sec, just let me get done here, I'll be over in 5 minutes. No, is that all right? You're helpful, you're polite, you're courteous, but you want to get your work done first, because when all said and done, a potential customer doesn't pay your bills. The current customer pays your bills. They take priority, okay? That's how I've always dealt with it, okay? Once I've got done, I will pack up, I will put my stuff in the van, etc., and then I'll go and stroll over to have a chat with the gentleman. We'll give the price, I'll have a look, etc., etc., and all being well, he will say, yeah, happy days, when can you get us in? Or can you do us today? And this is the other side of the argument as well, is I don't do customers the same day. I don't. They have to fit in with our rota and fit in with our terms, and especially with the amount of workload that we have, it's very unlikely that we're going to be able to fit customers in that day, okay? But the plus side of doing that, in my eyes, is that the customer almost has to accept that the windows will be getting cleaned, but not on his terms. They get cleaned on my terms. Happily help you. I'm very polite, I'm very professional, but I have a full list of work that needs doing today. I haven't got the time, I haven't got the water, okay? I'm going to have to come back next time I'm on this street. But next time I'm on this street, I'll add you to my list. I will text you the night before and all the rest. Happy days, not a problem. If the customer is prepared to wait, 2 to 4 weeks for you to go back and clean those windows, okay, then quite frankly, they've accepted that the windows are being cleaned on your terms and not theirs, all right? I've always said this, if you go back to previous videos, I'm very consistent in this, in that if the customer wants the windows doing, they have to accept the T's and C's. They have to accept that they'll be cleaned according, on our terms, okay? Because the only amount of sort of clout, if you like, the customer has, and the leeway that we give them is to sort of say, I would like my windows cleaning. I agree to the price. I agree to the T's and C's. That's it. The rest of it is down to us to organise it, okay? And they will have They will have the windows cleaned effectively when we can fit them in our rota. Okay. So yeah. Sorry guys, I had to answer a call there. So yeah. So like I say, it's a case of, you know, the customer ultimately is only right insofar as, you know, they require a problem solving, and they have the right to choose ultimately who is who you have the right to choose who is the one that's going to solve that problem for them. But you know, keeping a customer happy, okay, is not in an ideal world, yeah, you would keep the customer happy all the time, etc., and provide that value, provide a good service, etc. But really, it's, you know, you can't ever let yourself get to the point where the customer's happiness is absolute top of the tree. Your happiness, your sort of mental well-being, your sort of ability to run your business how you want it running, is ultimately that is the prime objective of being self-employed. The idea that you can the idea that ultimately keeping the customer 100% happy is going to be the number one route to success, I don't buy it, quite frankly. I don't. You know, the customer has to accept there are limitations on what you as a business owner can achieve, and if the customer is so eaten up about, you know, how things are done, the process and all this sort of stuff, then quite frankly, it's probably better that they find someone else to provide that service, at least in my humble opinion anyway. So, but yeah, top tip for the terrified, especially to the new guys, you know, yes, by all means, be polite, be professional, be courteous, be there, be present, be, you know, be that subject matter expert in your field. Have the confidence to deliver that in front of other people, which will come in time, I promise you. If you persist at it and you keep going at it and all this sort of stuff, and you can put on that poker face, even if you're terrified of dealing with customers, sometimes we've all got to put on our poker face, etc., and just sort of engage with that customer. I will not lie, there have been some customers I've dealt with, and I won't say they terrify me, but I'm always a bit like, oh, don't want to upset this guy, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. Or, you know, I wouldn't, you know, there's certain things you perhaps wouldn't say in front of certain customers and stuff like that, or in ordinary circumstances. But sometimes you just have to sort of, you know, you have to brave it out, and you know, and ultimately stand by your convictions. The way I see it is that if you could come across to that customer that you have nothing to lose, that if as a result of the conversation that you're about to have, you know, you walk away, there'll always be other customers for you. And worst case scenario, there'll always be someone prepared to provide that service that customer is after, whether that's with or without you, you know. And the best thing I can say is ultimately just take the emotion out of it. You know, you know, the idea of the professional, the subject matter expert, that guy that ultimately sort of talks to someone in a non-condescending kind of way, but as the expert, okay. Customers relate to that. Customers like that. You know what I mean? And it's all about confidence and being able to put that across to somebody in a non-condescending kind of way. Then, you know, you'll be very surprised that the more confident you act around the customer, the more that they'll sort of relax. Whereas if you go the other end of the scale, you're running around like a headless chicken. All this sort of stuff. All of a sudden, it'll do one or two things to the customer. It'll either make them nervous, or it'll make them nervous. You don't know what you're doing, that you could potentially either hurt yourself or damage their property or whatever, or, you know, and all this sort of stuff. Or they'll go the other end of the scale where they'll think, well, actually, you know, he's nervous, he's new, you know, we can probably take advantage of this. You know what I mean? Neither is a particularly attractive proposition. So ultimately, you have absolutely nothing to lose by donning your sort of poker face and pushing through it, in my humble opinion. And in my experience, it's not even just opinion, it's in my experience, to be fair. Because there have been times where I've been absolutely, you know, not, you know, especially at the beginning, I was absolutely terrified of dealing with customers on the expectation that the next thing I say could upset them and they'll go off on one at me and then that'll be my business over with and all this sort of stuff. The reality is it's completely different. End of the day, you know, be polite, be professional. Just keep on keeping on and you'll get there. So anyway, I've got to dive off and give a quote to a customer. So I don't have to don my poker face anymore, but if I did, have a good one, peeps. I'll see you in the next one. All the very best.